7:29. All right, I'm surprised. I thought this class was gonna be a little bit smaller, but we've got a sizable audience so far. Seems pretty chill, I think, in my non-medical opinion. It is now 7:30 on the dot, so I guess let me just share my screen. These slideshows I made like a long time ago, and they're still around. Can everyone see the title screen? Sorry, let me alt tab back. Okay, you guys can see it. Okay. Good. Yes, you can see Banny right here, true gamer, and then the real gamer right here, partaking in an act of intellectual stimulation. I'm not sure if you guys can see the mouse. Probably not, but like whatever. But okay, you can't. Whatever. It's not really gonna be necessary for today because it's just like it's slideshow PowerPoint presentations, glorified PowerPoint presentations. So what can you do? What can you do? I mean that's actually what Benny looks like in real life. Actually, I bet you guys didn't know this. That is what Benny is. He is. I've seen him. I've seen him a couple of times in real life, and that's exactly how he looks. So now you know. All right. Hold on real quick. Just gonna set something up for myself. All right. All right. I'm just gonna start things off. Hopefully everything's good. Sorry, I keep alt tabbing out. That's why the stream keeps getting paused. I apologize for that. Should be good now. As I was just checking on chat to make sure everything was good, but I'm just gonna start this. So today we'll be talking about mental health, communication, and morale. I'm gonna start off this first part of the slideshow originally was meant more for the communication part of it. So I'm going to talk about like managing comms, which actually will come into effect later with controlling your tone of voice, controlling your how you conduct yourself within the chat, which is honestly like a big thing. I think it's something that's rather underappreciated. It's always something that I focused on whenever I've been mentoring. It's always more of the soft skills that I've been more focused on rather than like the hard DM mechanical skills, which a lot of people can teach DM and mechanical skills, but it takes someone different to kind of teach that. Also, ignore the active Windows watermark. Ignore that. I know you guys can see it. I reformatted my hard drive and I never actually put in the new CD key, so that's ignore it. You get to watch the active Windows watermark for the whole time. Boohoo. Anyway, just starting things off, whatever. Just a few main ideas that I'm going to be talking about, like the target objectives for this quick little talk. The importance of emotional control, how to use communication efficiently and effectively, which I already kind of mentioned. And then going more into why we get angry, why do we get so tilted for that matter, and how can things from real life and in game affect that mental state during the game. And at the very end, I want to talk about when you realize something is wrong, how do we improve? How do we use the first step to improvement is obviously acknowledging that you had the problem, but I feel like a lot of people stop at that part. They acknowledge it and yet they don't really truly fix it. So we'll give some discussion on that part of it. So such is life. So yeah. Anyway, starting off with effective communication and or main calling. I know you guys had that main calling section like a few days back, so not gonna dwell too much on this part of it. But I mean, again, starting off with some basics. Being able to maintain calm and controlled in tough situations is obviously going to be the main ability that you need to be as a main caller. Stay rational, stay maintained. Don't let rash decisions and hot-headedness get to you. Your ability to listen to others and give their own comms, that's really another big thing, to be able to work with each other and make sure that you can both understand the information and use that information to get things across. And then clearing comms when things are going wrong is especially when people are experiencing tilt. This isn't just with main callers, this is with everyone. If things are getting too fast, too quick, everyone's just kind of jumbled, then you need to know when to, slow it down to get a clean slate. And, have confidence in yourself and in your teammates. It's a two-way street. If you don't have confidence within yourself to actually, main call, then you don't have that, commanding tone. It's going to be hard to corral the rest of your team and get under a specific cause. If you don't trust your teammates, then you're going to always err on the caution and you're not going to be able to play at the best level because you don't trust, and you got to trust. And keep going. And even if you aren't winning, never give up. Even if it's like 4-1 and there's like 3 minutes left on the timer, still, try your best. That's really what matters. That's at the end of the day. So, going on, I'm just going to show one of my favorite videos on my dissertation of damage numbers by former invite player Giggly Guy. One of my favorite matches. Hopefully you guys can hear the audio. I'm not going to speak over this, but...
They are.
So does hurt. He took 200.
He's not hurt.
Yeah.
Damage numbers! Please! I beg you!
I just got behind you, Capo.
To him. He was hurt. I don't know what
Say
you
200!
smoking.
Why does it have to be so
Is 200
difficult?
not hurt?
I don't know what you mean by hurt! Apparently so hurt was 170, now hurt is just 200?
No, I
doesn't make any
did
sense!
170.
He's so hurt! Like, I don't know what that means! Is that 50?
Hey, it sounds pretty bad just
Strokes
because you
for
think it
different
kills for like 10
folks.
damage.
Please!
Oh, Sally and their saw really hurt. 12 health on health kit.
Demo took 120.
You had 120 there, Pot?
Fuck!
Medic is hurt.
Oh,
I am
hi!
for 50.
Demo.
I am for 50.
God damn! See what I mean?
How do you play on any TF2 team, Giggly? Because
Ready?
nobody like
Because I
damage
say
100% of the team.
He took 100. Okay. If a scout's buffed and took 100,
Okay,
I
how
know
about
he's
this?
probably at
Hurt
like 50.
is 100 or less. How about that?
No,
Good
that's
enough for
it.
you?
No. It
Hey,
could be
tell
100.
him
It could be
that.
5. He's
Would you
hurt.
rather
He
I'll
took
laugh, I'll
5.
laugh.
Because I can do that too.
Yeah, so one of my favorite videos. Just wanted to show that off. To briefly mention, Thai communication with Tilt, as Giggly Guy was a little exclaiming there. So, yeah. When giving comms, I think the biggest thing, same with the damage numbers that Giggly Guy was ragging on so much about, make your sentences short and concise. That's something I always tell. This is not for main calling. This is for everyone. So just make sure to say things very quickly so that the information goes across well. If you kind of do like a run-on sentence and you kind of explain yourself, it kind of just you start to block it out and then focus on something else, and then the comms actually don't get heard. So make sure to make that quick. If someone's mic is too loud or quiet, you should adjust their volume on Discord accordingly. Or if they can't adjust their mic, do so. But obviously, not everyone can do so. So there's that. And don't get too heated when saying things. I think a big thing to distinguish with this third point about not getting too heated is that having urgency is fine. Urgency is fine, but tilting isn't, right? It's nice to be able to have some exclamation within your voice, but doing it in aggressive tone, if you can, I can't just say just don't speak in this manner all the time. It's not really as easy as just saying just stop doing it, but try to work slowly towards having a more commanding yet not an aggressive tone. Is something I'm trying to say. And again, going back to that first point, try to shorten what you say accordingly. So med hit 800 or not fucking 800, med hit 80, my apologies, instead of med 1 health. Usually my best gauge of how much damage before when you should call is above 60, is around that number range when you want to call out that damage. Or say scout bleeding instead of I hit the scout with a rap assassin. You can convey that words, or you can say scout bald, or something like that. Or if anything, scout rap assassin. Makes it very simpler. Why use more word when less word work? So they're simple. And then now I think again I want to go through communication kind of quickly. Now we're gonna start talking about how communication leads to emotional outbursts, difficulties, just getting out of line. Image related on the bottom right. So like, how can you play at your best if you can't control your emotional state, and therefore you can't make rational thoughts in that heat of the moment, right? And it's a downward spiral if you keep doing the same thing over and over again. You start losing, and then you get angry because you start losing. Then because you're getting angry and losing, you start making worse calls because you're like, we need to win. And then the worst calls actually don't allow you to win, so you play worse, and then you start losing harder, and then it just keeps going over and over and over. And learning how to cool down, learning how to control yourself and recognizing that it's happening and stop from being impulsive during the plays is going to be very important as you're playing. This is regardless of whether you're playing TF2 or like some other game, like, I don't know, maybe like CS or an FGC. Learning how to slow it down and cool it down is going to be important. And acknowledge when you're starting to feel that anger within yourself, when the tilt factor accumulates. And then try to refrain from overly negative comments and talking down your teammates' inabilities. If you say like, "Man, Scout, you're fucking dog shit at aiming," the Scout is not going to be very happy with that. One, he's going to think you're a douche, which you rightfully are. And two, it's not going to motivate him to do good, because clearly you're not appreciating what he's doing. Even if he's not doing the best in that situation, he's not going to want to try. And then he's just going to be like, okay, screw off. I'm just going to do whatever I want if you don't respect me and my autonomy. And then again, you just start playing worse, and that same spiral is going to happen again. So like, try not like literally don't tell people to kill themselves unless they're the medic and like everyone else is dead, like for like an actual play. Like, don't, it makes sense. I don't be overly negative or toxic. That sounds obvious, but I'm going to try to elaborate a little bit more on that as we go along. So, yeah. But yeah, what can impact your mental state? This is some very basic bullet points. Usually, like, a lot of these bullet points are very, very like freaking internet guru levels of obvious, but I think I want to try to elaborate on each of them to try to like get more practical sense of what I'm trying to say. So, the impact on your mental state is, I kind of brief on the last slide, I talked about how it can happen in game, but of course it can be stuff that is outside of your game. We have to remember that for a lot of people, video games serve as like escapism from the real world. But that's not to say like to forget about their worries, but that's not to say that those same worries, those same issues and problems won't show up during the game itself. Not like, not physically literally telling them what's going on in your life, but like just how they act and how they're feeling. So a bad game and a nasty interaction with others online can change your perception of others, and it can just make a bad day feel even worse. And it's a fine line they have to balance to try to learn to set up your own put away your own personal difficulties when you are playing, which one, as I put it in parentheses, that is easier said than done. If like, say like my like pet just died yesterday, like last night, and I have to play a scrim on the next day, I'm not exactly going to be in a very good mental state. I'm not going to be very happy to play. And especially if, things are not going up for you, especially if you're not winning, then it just makes a really bad day just feel even worse. So I'm not going to say, and if for that matter, if there's a situation like that where your pet just died, I think it'd be a much better idea to just not play that day, or, take a few days off of playing the game to try to kind of reset. And be mindful of others and what they might be going through. And sometimes I do like to play around with people, mess around with them in good fun. But if it is something that they're sensitive about, or like they know, like they kind of don't really like you saying that, then like try to avoid it. It's not, respect is like, it's a mutual thing, and it just makes everyone's like, not just you and the whatever person that you're saying it to, but like everyone else's experience just a little bit rougher, because two people arguing in a server, that doesn't exactly make everyone feel like very enthusiastic about playing. They're like, oh my god, these two are arguing again, this shit all over again, oh my gosh. So, and be sure to differentiate between criticism and toxicity. Don't don't like, instead of saying, Scout, you're really bad, maybe you say, hey, Scout, could you play a little bit more high ground? You know, maybe that could help you out a little bit better. You know, you're still giving advice to them, but not twisting the blade, so to say, to your words. So now I'm going to talk about changing your mental fortitude, changing and hopefully maybe performance. They kind of, again, they go hand in hand. I already talked about the downward spiral thing about, you know, when you start like just getting out of control, it makes you feel worse and it makes your gameplay worse. I know I'm laying out the obvious. I'm going to repeat this again. I'm kind of laying out the obvious things, but I think it's really important to contextualize these things to understand it. And honestly, this is something that isn't exactly like I'm not a freaking therapist. I can't, you know, solve every issue, and I don't know everyone like personally like that. So honestly, on this slide, I kind of touch only upon very basic stuff that works for everyone. First thing is to eat well and to drink water. Playing while hangry does not help. Trust me, I've done that way too many times, especially because I'm West Coast. It's like right during when I start getting hungry, and it just kind of, you know, messes with me. So like, try to eat beforehand and like just chill, not be like just sweaty gamer, and just, you know, be hydrated, get in a good position. Which goes into my second point. Don't slouch. Don't get the gamer pose. Play in a nice position. Get comfortable. If you have the means and the money to, a gaming chair or shoot, maybe even like a used office chair is a lot better than playing like on some wood chair. I used to play on like this wood chair that was really uncomfortable, and it kind of got on my nerves whenever I was like not having a good, you know, match where I'm like playing badly. So like, just have remember to do like a posture check every so often, maybe like every 30 or so minutes. Something I also like to do is maybe during half times, during scrims, like every 30 minutes, get off of your chair, stretch a little, walk around a bit, get your eyes off of the screen. That's another thing. Part of position, don't look too closely at the screen. You don't want to damage your eyesight. Not as much as it already is. So and then this sounds like a cop out, but genuinely getting some exercise and going to a gym does wonders. Or like not even going to a gym, just being active in some way physically will help you out so much and make you feel so much better. Like I know there's a lot of gym bros that will say, "Oh, just go to the gym; it'll make all your problems go away." And I'm not saying that it will, just magically do so, but it will certainly help out. It's not, an end all be all magic cure, but it'll at least be a remedy for some things. So, yeah. Hold on real quick. My apologies. I'm gonna go drink some water real quick. All right, sorry about that. Just back from water. Just went to go get water. I'm using my first point. Well, I'm drinking water, bro. um you never leave the house. Never leave the house. Never exercise, never get to the gym, never go outside, never get sunshine. It's bad for you. It's like you get radiation, bro. Don't ever go outside. um Sorry, and then I actually forgot to talk about the last point. Number 5, touch grass. Touch grass. Idiot. um, I kind of said that I wrote this as kind of like a joke point for like this slide originally when I wrote it, but you actually do want to get some sunlight, get some vitamins from the sun, not too much, or else you get sunburnt. But studies do show that being in the sun for at least a little bit of time during each day will help your mood, general stress be like reduced, and make you feel a little bit better. Again, reduce your anxiety. It's once again, I'm going to say the same point with point 4 about going to the gym. It's not an end-all be-all cure. It's not the magic cure that'll solve all your problems. But like doing all these steps, they don't take too much effort, and it'll make you feel, it'll help you feel a lot better. It'll give you some elements that you don't have to think about when you are, going through your journey to self-improvement and actually getting good at the game. So, and I don't remember where I found this picture of Tech, but I just put it in the slide. So, yeah. Anyway, next up is building team chemistry. So, building team chemistry is going to be one of those things I really encourage within the teams that I do mentor, and I think it's a really underappreciated, not a skill, just an underappreciated aspect of life that you're just that I think a lot of people could better utilize. And this is the first thing to say is to be in a healthy environment, you have to try to build that team chemistry. How can you trust your team if you don't understand your teammates that well, or you just don't trust them? If you don't, say you're like playing like scout, or say you're playing medic. This is probably the best example. Say you're playing medic and you keep dying, and you now no longer trust the rest of your combo to actually, help you out and do work and protect you. Therefore, hey, they're not helping me, so I'm going to play in a position where I know I'm going to be safe and I can escape. And then now the medic's playing completely different to where they should be playing because they fear. And now the rest of the players don't get heals, and then now the rest of the team is worse off, and then they lose more. So like, I did give a gameplay kind of perspective and analysis of that right there. But when you don't, I feel like I'm not saying, I'm going to make it very clear. I'm not saying that you guys need to know each other personally, that you guys all need to like meet up in real life and like you have to say your complete address and show your face. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that by, talking outside of just scrims and learning about each other and your different play styles and your mannerisms, what they enjoy about the games, does really go a long way. Not just the simplest explanation is that you know their voice, so you understand who's talking about what, but just if you understand their mannerisms, you can kind of cover up for those weak spots and the difficulties that they do have. That's something you'll also figure out with when you're getting demo reviews, hopefully by your respective coaches on your teams. And they'll point out, oh, hey, the soldier isn't actually really defending the med right here, or they're like not very good at sacking, or like sometimes when you're sacking, you're having trouble with this, stuff like that. Sorry about that. And then, yeah, so the 2 points I'm going to mention right here is to play. Some of the best tips I have to kind of doing this is to play casual together. MGing is one of my favorite ones. MGing is like, I don't remember where, I don't know if I made this analogy up or heard it from someone else, and I really liked it, but MGing, a good MG session with your teammates is like having a deep conversation in Minecraft and you're just parkouring around your house. That's what a good MG session should be like, where you're improving DMing and like deathmatching and mechanically, but you also get to know them a little bit better. So, yes, I am an MG bro. I'm not an MG lord, I'm an MG bro. That's a big difference. And yeah, something that you did mention that I did also mention is playing other games. Don't just like be like the whole thing be your TF2. Like play other games or like connect about them, about other media or games, TV shows, anime, whatever. Again, it's all part of the understanding them better. And I already mentioned learning your voices. I'm not going to talk about it again. Just as you play more, you'll understand each other. You'll know who's saying what without having to see whose speech bubble pops up in Discord. And then last point I wanted to mention is be open to your teammates and show that you weren't perfect, but you still want to improve. I think that's really the biggest thing. I think especially in an online environment, especially with the current, I don't want to say the current state of the world, but the current state of internet culture, I feel it's a lot of people are a lot more reluctant to show their own personal side of things. And again, I'm going to clarify again, you don't have to dox yourself completely. to accomplish that, I think there's a very big proponent to having privacy. Once again, within this current world. But obviously, if you, it's gonna be hard for people to understand you if you don't try to open yourself up a little bit more emotionally. If you don't try to explain yourself or to have others try to at least understand you. Again, not everyone's perfect. Some people might not be very, enthusiastic about talking about themselves, or, some people might be a little bit egotistical or narcissistic and may not like just support, what you're doing or whatever. But try to show some openness and that you are, trying to improve. Be honest about your shortcomings and what you are having trouble with mechanically, and also like communications wise. And then hopefully your teammates might pitch in to give some advice. Mainly your coaches should also hopefully be giving some advice. You don't have to, say it publicly in front of everyone on the team either too. If you have like beef with someone, or you have some quarrels that need to be kind of resolved, try to talk with your coach about it, or DM them, like, just by themselves, and see what you can do. You don't want to have, burdens and grudges accumulate over these, few weeks that you guys are playing together, and in general for the upcoming seasons that you guys are hopefully going to be playing. So like, set your matters straight and whatnot. So yeah. Yeah. And then, so now we're going to talk more on the negative side of things. I kind of talked more in the positive sense, and I'm talking more in the negative sense. To not tweak. By the 9, I'm tweaking. Ego and negativity towards teammates. So I just briefly mentioned narcissism and ego. Some people feel that like they just feel better than their peers, and that is just really a bad mindset. We have to remember that everyone is here to improve. You might be better mechanically, you might be better movement, wise, but that doesn't mean you're better as a overall teammate or as an overall person. Not to judge one of, their personal matters when you don't know them, but that's what I'm saying. You can't judge that person as a part of the team. Not to sound like an HR manager there, but you always have to have an improvement mindset, and understand that even from the teammate that you don't think is as good, you can learn something from them. Or if anything, you can learn what not to do that maybe they are doing. Something like that. And a big distinction I want to make for this whole thing is I'm referring to ego in the, not in the, I feel like a lot of people equate ego to like a bad thing. Yeah, we have to remember that ego just means the self-confidence. Having ego is a good thing to have, just not too much. In the same way that having a lack of ego will not help you at all. So, yeah, red face. We are family here. We're a family here of 6 players. If you have I already, I think most people understand why having a giant ego is bad. I don't think I have to mention that, but having a low ego, having low self-confidence does not allow you, again, it causes fear. Going back to that medic thing, if let's spin the medic example a little bit differently. Say the medic doesn't have confidence within themselves. They're like, I'm a bad player. I can't actually save my teammates. I can't actually do what I'm supposed to do. I'm horrible at this job. And then that down mindset doesn't actually help them heal their teammates. And then the teammates are complaining, and then their ego starts getting worse and worse. You have to have the confidence to do something to be able to put it, It's the same thing with courage. I think a lot of people think that courage is to be always fearless and to do things, on a whim, but that is not courage. Courage is doing something in spite of fear, in spite of, being full of fear. You still do it. And that is part of the ego thing that I'm talking about. And don't blame others of your own shortcomings and missteps. There are elements. You can say, okay, my scout didn't defend our medic. That's his fault. But that doesn't mean that you can't ignore the fact that, you didn't actually damage the soldier's rocket, or you weren't looking up, or you couldn't kill the soldier themselves. Like, you can't blame them on that. Like, there you can blame a certain part of it, but there is a certain element that you can realize that you can improve on. Ask yourself on how you can improve and give yourself self-criticism and reflect on your actions. Going back again, I'm going to talk about ego. Only just negative criticism of like just negativity about yourself is not good. Having a pessimistic look on how you're playing will only just damage your confidence in doing things more and more. It's important to have a 50 kind of a variation of things. You want to look at what you did positively, what you did good. Hey, like I was playing, say I'm playing soldier. I'm like, hey, I did really good on those sacks. I got the medic a lot of times. I got some high value picks. But then also it's a balancing act. It's not like it's going to be up and down at times, but it's a balancing act. Say maybe I still have to criticize my soldier gameplay because I didn't do scout versus soldier DM very well. Maybe like I kept losing my scout and soldier DM. So maybe my bombs are good, but my scout and soldier DM isn't good, so I know what to improve on. And lastly, listen to the complaints of your teammates clearly. This is a skill that I've learned myself by whenever I made maps. I used to make maps, not anymore, to be honest. I'm an old man, not really, but I'm washed. But when I used to make maps, you get a whole bunch of feedback on how the map's played. And whenever you do your map testing, there's going to be a whole bunch of feedback. Some of it is going to be very constructive criticism. You're going to be able to understand, what they want, specifically what they want to change or what you think would improve it. And then other times it's just people complaining. And it's a skill to learn what kinds of complaints are genuine criticism or just complaints, just straight up complaint. So, yeah. All right. And I kind of already talked about the lack of ego. So I'm going to try to go through the slide a little bit quicker. Being selfless is good, and it's always good to help out others, but always being harsh on yourself isn't. I think it's important to give compliments and props to the rest of your teammates. But this is something I really had trouble with at the beginning, where I was always just so hard on myself. And I'm like, man, I'm so shit at the game. What's the point of me doing this? Like, God, I'm such a detriment to the team. Again, it's a negative mindset, and it's only going to make your gameplay worse because you don't think you can accomplish something. You're not going to try to go for a flank versus, scout v scout if you don't think that you can actually win it. Like even if you think the scout is slightly better than you on the enemy team, it's like, if you don't think that you can accomplish it, you're never going to try it. And trying, failing is the first step to success. It's just that a lot of people don't even bother trying. Not everything is your fault. Don't always be hard on yourself. There are times when you are to blame, but there's also, it's not black and white. Partial fault can be found everywhere. Some elements are out of your controls. Your teammates might have done the wrong action. And in general, a feeling of a lack of control, this can be in-game or in real life. It can definitely cause feelings of helplessness and just having a lack of self-esteem for that matter. You just like, you don't, not to prod in anyone's personal business, but if you feel like you're in a situation where you can't do anything, you're helpless, you're in a bad state right now, maybe financially or emotionally, maybe your parents aren't doing good with you, or you're going through a breakup. Again, I'm giving some personal examples, but like that feeling, that learned helplessness will only become worse and worse as you go along. So you have to try to gain back that control in some ways, just not in a negative way. And in general, going back to like straight up a TF2 thing, stop caring about the score mid game. Care about your logs after the game. I see people like pressing typing in .ss and checking their logs like every single time, like during a round, like win or loss. Tabbing in to look at your KD, that gets like negative. Say like I'm at, my KD is 4 and 8. I'm like, shoot, I'm doing really bad. I need to get more kills. But by thinking that, maybe you get more aggressive, and therefore maybe you die more, and that it keeps getting worse. So something that some people have done, I think Banny has done. No, not Banny. Sorry, not Banny. He tabs out way too much. But some of my friends have done this. Unblind your tab key. Don't look at the scoreboard like that. You can see it in the logs eventually, either way. So, yeah. Yeah, dude, Redface, send that DM that picture to me. I do want to add that image. That's sick. That's sick. Send that image to me later, or just DM it to me. Yeah, I'm just looking at the chat real quick, but it's nice to be like a hype man. You know, bring each other up. You know, try to live for the small victories. Find bits of optimism. You know, be the change you want to see in the world. Be a beacon of light on your team, and instill hope within others. And to put a quote in this at the end, falling down is an inevitability, but getting back is a requirement. So get the fuck back up. Now going on, quick slide about harmful mindsets. Learn to realize that you will not always win, nor really always lose. If you keep winning, you're gonna, you know, you're gonna think that you're on the top of the world until you get to the next person that's actually better than you, and then your ego crashes, and then, you know, it's like the adrenaline spike goes down immediately. However, if you keep losing, you're gonna think, oh, I'm never gonna win. I'm not gonna try, and then you just keep losing. So, and a big thing to put about all of this, to connect all of this, is having that superiority complex, to have like the leader complex. First off, you are not entitled to win, and you should not think you're better than the other team. If you think that you're better than the other team and you're like, I deserve this win, they're clearly worse mechanically, and like, you know, like we're just way better, then that just makes a loss feel even worse, and it just brings everyone's mood down and down and down and down. So, yeah. So don't think that. And the second point, you will not lose because of your teammates. We all make mistakes, including ourselves. I already kind of mentioned it already. Blame is not black and white. Sometimes it's sometimes fault can be shared among everyone, not just you. But you are also not exempt from this rule. So I think the bigger one to really focus on is not feeling entitled to win. Because I've seen people like that way too often, where they're like, there's no way I shouldn't be losing this. So growth doesn't happen instantly, and Rome wasn't built in a day. Continuing on with the harmful mindsets, we can sometimes see that the enemy team uses like stupid tactics or does things that doesn't work or that shouldn't work, and yet they go unpunished. They're like, yo, they're running a power to mid. You know, why are they? There's no way you should be winning these. You know, it's like, man, they're playing Spider mid. Wow, and we're still winning. What are we doing? We're so bad. You know, something like that. And part of that is quite literally just learn how to counter those stupid tactics. Think about it like this. This is the training arc, and you're figuring out all the different scenarios they might have to possibly train for, and try to figure out how to counter them, how to one-up them, how to, you know, beat the hell out of them, and use their own stupid, quote-unquote, stupid tactics to win against them. So, yeah. And then don't get trash talking and taunting get on your nerves. You know, they'll say some stupid shit. Maybe they put in a, you know, I'm kind of guilty of this. I sometimes put in a question mark here and there. But don't get on your nerves. It's just going to get the tilt factor more. And also let you and your teammates dictate the game and not the enemy. You know, let the tide of the game be figured out by how you react to their stuff. So, and then Sun Tzu probably said to defeat the enemy with their ego. So I think he's probably right about a thing or two. So you should probably listen to him. And Sun Tzu also said, you either shit in the sink or you sink in the shit. So that's important to remember. Also, Abney, how do you stop thinking about this stuff mid-game if you do start? I think it's, again, taking a step away or pausing the match can be a good thing. I think I actually mentioned this later on, so I'm going to try to keep that thought, and I'll talk about it a little bit later. But, you know, it's okay to take a tag pause or, like, again, like I said, during halftime, walk around, think about something else. And also, when a scrim ends, you might want to do something a little bit different, not stay on TF2. But I should talk about that later. And I like this image. Yeah, you might have lost today, but that's another reason to win tomorrow. And I think that's a pretty cool statement, I think, in my non-medical opinion. So, anyway, reflections and then self-critique. So, setbacks are signs of overcoming difficulty when you're in a growth mindset. This is what I say. Suffering builds character, but needless suffering just builds pain and sadness and sorrow. So setbacks are just, it is a natural part of life. You're just going to have a lot of them. And self-criticism and reflection is important, but only in moderation. Remember what I said about the lack of ego and always being hard on yourself. If you constantly reflect on things that happen, it's like nostalgia. If you keep reflecting on the things that happen, you can't actually look at the things that can happen in the future, right? So you want to be able to have a moderated level of, I like to have this analogy of the past, present, and the future. You want to have a you want to be able to look at the past to learn about your mistakes from the past and to learn from the mistakes of your past. However, you don't want to get stuck on the past, or else you will just keep trying to relive it and not change. If you live only in the present, you're going to get a lot more hot-headed, toxic. You're only going to be in that situation. You're not going to learn from your past mistakes, and you're not going to be thinking about the future. You don't want to be thinking only about the future, about like, say like, oh, I'm going to do this roadmap to get to invite, screw all my friends that I made along the way. I just want to get better. Because you have to enjoy the process, the whole, journey, not the destination. You want to keep that in mind. So you have to, live each part of those different, I guess, eras of the past, present, and future for the reflection. So, sorry, long analogy. My apologies. Logs aren't everything. I already mentioned this about with the tab section. Logs aren't everything. So, yeah. And then ask your mentors to do one-on-one demo reviews or to review your own demos if you think that you're having trouble. If you can't figure out what's wrong with it or you're very down on it, you have to look for, again, criticism and see what they can do. The mentors are your resource. They're the slave labor that keeps the world going. So ask your mentors to get one-on-one demo reviews. And then ask your teammates what you can improve on. Again, with the whole map making analogy, bringing out what is valid criticism and what's just needless complaining. But ask your teammates for advice. They're the ones that are playing directly alongside you. They usually have the best perspective, probably maybe even more so than the mentor, because they're not playing themselves. So, and then challenge yourself in new ways. And big thing to remember is the only thing to fear is fear itself. And to just ball out, man. I'll keep saying it. Don't be so hard on yourself. Don't be like I was when I first started playing the game. And calm it. Keep it cool. And then learn and adapt during the game. Discuss and reflect after. If you are discussing your past problems in the middle of a game, you can't actually, this is what I was saying about the past, you can't focus on the gameplay. If you're too busy talking about what went wrong during the last push, you're not going to have anything you're not going to know what you're going to be doing at the next mid fight. So, yeah. And then this image is very important. I've come to warn you about the self-destructive tendency to self-isolate when things get difficult. I think this round guy knows a thing or two. And then here's another big one that took me a long time to realize is the competitive versus fun mindset. This is when I started playing personal story is not really a story. Personal anecdote is I was extremely serious about playing this game competitively. I was playing my columns were dry as a motherfucker, and then I was just demoing myself every single match I played. I was looking at seeing what I can improve, being very uptight and not finding humor in anything. And then, as I kept playing, I realized how important it was to remember why you're doing this in the first place. Learn to find a balance between competitive gameplay and having fun. And obviously, if you have too much fun, then you start getting thoroughly. It hampers your overall team's performance because you're doing stupid stuff. And it causes that tilt because you're doing stupid stuff and there's no incentive to improve. If one person's fooling off and horsing around, if you're horsing around, then what does that make me think of you? You're not taking it seriously. You don't care about the game. So why should I care? Why should I actually do anything if we're not actually playing to win? On the other hand, though, being too competitive like I was at the start, it still causes tilt. It can cause you to get tilted. You're too serious. You're not understanding of others. You're really uptight like I was, and you're less willing to try out different tactics. I think this is a big one. You're going cold and mechanically. You're going with the formula, so you're not going to be willing to do some stupid stuff. Like maybe that power to mid is a bad idea, but like, why don't we try it once in a while? Try to go off of the book sometimes, freestyle that stuff. And there's nothing wrong with it, and it's kind of funny. It's a little BME maybe, but what's life without a few regrets and some stupid activities? A life full of regrets is much better than a life with none, or with one, I should say. The one being that there aren't any regrets. So yeah. And yeah, we're here to take the game to the next level and improve our own mechanical skills, and to enjoy the process and go through the trials and tribulations, make friends, do some silly stuff, go out and live your life, or live your online life, I guess. So, yep. Yeah. So, the path of improvement, the important clutcher cake. So the path of improvement, your mental fortitude and state are a balancing act. There are times when you're going to be good. Your mental state is pitch perfect. It's amazing. And sometimes you're in a freaking rut, and that's just life. I don't take a shot every time I say that's life. You'll probably be super drunk. Actually, don't do that. You probably die of alcohol poisoning, so don't do that. But it literally is life. It is a balancing act, and you have to tread that line, and you have to understand when you tip one way or the other. So, be open to getting criticism. Don't be afraid to give criticism. I already talked about this point. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Work on how you conduct your comms with your teammates. I mentioned at the very beginning, tone is kind of important. I think the worst tone to have is just aggression. Passive aggressiveness also doesn't come across right because it feels very whiny, complaining. You're like, okay, but you didn't actually do this. I know. I think, could you actually do this? If I heard that, I'd be like, bro, what are you telling me? Like you're like, you ain't shit, bro. It's not passive aggressiveness and just straight up aggression. Straight up aggression just causes tilt. Passive aggressiveness creates like this gradual. It also causes tilt, to be honest. So yeah. And take a chill pill, man. Take a chill pill. It's not that complicated. Remember it you have to keep remembering this. It is just a game. You can take it serious, but don't make it everything. You don't play 8 hours of TF2 competitively and MG hours on end. Don't make this your whole personality and your whole life. It's like the whole going to the gym, drinking water, touching grass. Do other things. Doing other things, I found as I did more things, I found that it genuinely did make me better because it made me more versatile and more adaptive to things. It improved my soft skills. So, and Rome wasn't built in a day. You're not going to find improvement immediately. Chill out. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. That's what Ice Cube said, and I think he knows a thing or two. Just like Sun Tzu. Path of improvement continued. First bullet point, sometimes it just happens. I know it sounds very big, but sometimes it just happens. Can't really do much about it. Let's think in a more nihilistic perspective. There are things that are inevitable and they will happen, but what's important is not those incidents themselves. It's about how you react to those things. That's more of a nihilistic perspective, perhaps a more absurdist one, but we're not going to talk to me about philosophy some other time. This is not really the time for that now. So, yeah. Understand what is and isn't in your control, and learn to laugh at silly plays. Once again, in moderation, fun versus competitive mindset. Create meaningful connections, both with your teammates and your enemies. Keep your friends close, but your enemies even closer. I'm sure you've heard that quote before. So, and who knows? Maybe those enemies will become your teammates someday. So it's nice to have a more natural relationship like that. A kind of relationship where it is a rivalry that incentivizes improvement rather than hatred, I should say. When things get bad, don't be afraid to step back and collect your thoughts. Again, if going back to the point that Abney kind of mentioned, if you realize you're kind of having a lot of these pitfalls, or like you're really not feeling that day, it's all right to say, hey, I'm sorry, I'm just really not in a good place right now. I need to take tonight off, or I need to take the next few days off to try to collect myself, or maybe can you give me a tack pause real quick? Let me just walk around. I don't know, maybe smoke a joint. something. I don't know. Be like Habib. And just if you do feel comfortable, just step back in. If not, it's all good. It's all good. So, and don't always look back at your wrongdoings. Look forward on improving yourself. What I just explained with the past, present, and future analogy. So, and then here goes my final thoughts. This is what, like, I always love saying this. I say this like whenever the chance I always get to explain myself. Competitive TF2 and any game in general is 50% your mechanics and 50% in your communication skills, your emotional controls, and your mental game. Give and take constructive feedback and look out for your teammates. Look out for your own physical and mental health. And last but not least, play your best. But at the very end, remember that it's a game. So set aside your differences in real life and also set aside any problems that you have in game at the same time. Right? Again, balancing act, fine line to tread. I've already said it, but I'm going to say it again. It's a thing that will teeter and totter back and forth, and you will slowly learn to get the equilibrium a little bit better. It's like balancing a stick on the top of your hand. You'll have to adjust it back and forth as you please, as you need to keep it upright. So, and in the midst of it so over, I found there was within me an invincible we are so back. So. No, yeah, exactly. No Chad mindset. Uplift others, uplift others. We all make it. And if no one told you today, I hope you listeners all have a good fucking day. And then I think this is my final. Oh yeah, this is my final slide. Every time you're tempted to react in the same old way, ask yourself if you want to be a prisoner of your past or a pioneer of your future. And with that, I will drop. Well, I'm not dropping the mic yet, but that is the end of the session. So, hopefully you enjoyed those slides. I haven't really been looking at the chat too often. Sorry, I was like mostly talking that time. Any questions or thoughts or concerns that I could try to answer? Sorry, I think people were answering each other's own questions. But hopefully that's all right. But if there's any questions or anything you want to talk about, just let me know right now. Because I'm chill, bro. I'm taking a chill pill. I'm letting it simmer, bro. I'm letting it simmer.